then I think it can become a living hell. I got that poem in there, Daymares.
You might think you know their love story, the chance meeting at a Los Angeles club, the instant liquid courage connection. But Camila is finally pulling back the curtain on the rites of passage she had to endure just to be accepted into the McConaughey clan. From the calculated tests by her famous mother-in-law to the one shocking ultimatum that changed their marriage forever, Camila is revealing the gritty truth about what it takes to stay married to one of the biggest stars on the planet. So what did she finally say that has the industry buzzing? And why did it take 14 years for her to finally speak her mind? Stick around, because the truth about the McConaughey household is far more complicated than any movie script. Beyond the red carpet, the truth about Matthew and Camila's high-stakes marriage. Matthew McConaughey and Camila Alves may be the gold standard for Hollywood power couples today. But before the red carpets and the unconditional love, Matthew was a man convinced the clock was ticking. He felt like he was running out of time to find the one, drifting through a bachelor life that lacked the moral anchor he craved. That all changed in 2006 at a West Hollywood bar, though for Camila, it wasn't exactly a fairy tale beginning. A Brazilian transplant who had moved to New York at 19 to chase a modeling career, she wasn't looking for a movie star. And with Matthew rocking a thick beard and a Rasta hat, she didn't even realize she was talking to one. When Matthew saw her from across the room, he famously told himself to get your ass out of the chair and go get her, using a mix of Spanish and Portuguese to break the ice. But Camila wasn't easily swayed. In fact, the moment his friend Lance Armstrong walked over and she realized who he was, her first instinct was to head to the other side of the room. She was an independent spirit, a woman building an empire with her handbag line, Muxo, and her organic food company, Yummy Spoonful. A wedding wasn't even on her radar. She had actually told her parents not to expect her to ever walk down the aisle. The transition from that liquid courage connection to a June 2012 wedding was what Camila calls an evolution. They didn't just rush into a ceremony, they embraced marriage as a spiritual adventure, involving their children, Levi and Vita, as ring bearer and flower girl. Even with A-list guests like Woody Harrelson and Reese Witherspoon looking on, the focus remained on the DNA of their family. That focus on individuality is how they parent today, with Matthew and Camila sharing a moral bottom line while letting their 3 kids, now including young Livingston, be exactly who they are. But don't let the glossy Instagram updates or the rare family appearances at the Texas Medal of Arts Awards fool you. The reason their love seems picture perfect is that they ruthlessly prioritize it behind the scenes. They swear by the 10-minute getaway, booking hotel rooms just down the road from their house just to escape the sound of kids screaming for help. It's these staycations that keep the spark lit. But as Camila is finally revealing, staying in the McConaughey inner circle required more than just romantic getaway. She's finally pulling back the curtain on the rites of passage she had to endure, from the calculated tests by her famous mother-in-law Kay to the shocking ultimatum that forced Matthew to finally commit. It took 14 years for her to speak her mind, because the truth about the McConaughey household is far more complicated than anyone can imagine. Yet to understand how Camila survived the McConaughey family entry fee, you have to understand the woman she was long before she ever met the man. She didn't arrive at that Los Angeles club as a star-struck fan. She arrived as a seasoned survivor who had already conquered her own set of impossible hurdles. The architect of her own life, how Camila Alves built a legacy before the red carpet. While Matthew was busy becoming a household name, Camila Alves was quietly building a legacy that had nothing to do with the man she met at that Los Angeles club. Long before she was a fixture on the red carpet, she was a 15-year-old immigrant from Itambacuri, Minas Gerais, Brazil, arriving in the United States with a relentless work ethic inherited from her artist mother and her rancher father. Her early years in America weren't spent in VIP lounge. They were spent working as a house cleaner and a waitress for 4 years, grinding until she became fluent in English and could finally call the U.S. her home. By the time she moved to New York City at age 20, she wasn't just another aspiring model. She was a woman who knew exactly what it meant to earn her place. That grit translated into a powerhouse modeling career that saw her grace the covers of Ocean Drive, Maxim, and Town and Country, while walking the high-fashion runways for legends like Valentino and Carolina Herrera. But Camila was never content with just being a face for a brand. She wanted to be the architect behind one. Partnering with her mother, she designed the Muxa line of handbags, a venture that proved her creative instincts were just as sharp as her business savvy. Whether she was hosting Sheer Genius on Bravo or becoming the face of Macy's INC line, she was consistently proving that she was a force to be reckoned with in her own right. By 2016, that entrepreneurial spirit evolved into Women of Today, a lifestyle hub that allowed her to connect directly with women on everything from health and decor to the complexities of family life. She didn't stop there either. As the co-owner of Yummy Spoonfuls, she brought organic baby and toddler food to the frozen aisles of Target, essentially revolutionizing how parents think about convenience and nutrition. She even took her talents to the Food Network, co-hosting the Kids BBQ Championship, and eventually added New York Times best-selling author to her resume with her children's book, Just Try One Bite. But perhaps the most telling part of Camila's journey is how she uses that influence for something bigger. Together with Matthew, she founded the Just Keep Livin' Foundation in 2010, turning their shared values into a platform for health and wellness in school. When the world came to a standstill during the 2020 pandemic, they didn't just stay inside their Texas home. They personally distributed over 100,000 face masks to hospitals in need. It's this blend of relentless ambition and deep-rooted empathy that makes her more than just a Hollywood wife. She is a woman who navigated the difficult rites of passage in a new country and a new industry long before she ever had to navigate the McConaughey family, proving that the truth about her life is far more layered and impressive. But while Camila was reinforcing her own identity, Matthew was realizing he had nearly lost his. The man who had once been the industry's most bankable leading man found himself at a crossroads, needing to burn down his existing image to build something far more substantial. The McConnaissance, how Matthew McConaughey reclaimed his career. While Camila was busy laying the foundation for her own empire, Matthew McConaughey was navigating a career trajectory that would eventually redefine the very idea of a Hollywood comeback. Though they share a life now, Matthew's journey began in 1993 with a breakout performance in Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused, a role that introduced the world to his signature laid-back charisma. By 1996, he had secured his first lead in the John Grisham adaptation A Time to Kill, proving he could carry the weight of a major studio film. This momentum carried him into high-profile dramas like Steven Spielberg's Amistad and Robert Zemeckis' Contact, where he held his own opposite heavyweights like Morgan Freeman and Jodie Foster. However, as the new millennium rolled in, the industry began to see Matthew through a very specific lens. Throughout the 2000s, he became the quintessential face of the romantic comedy, starring in hits like The Wedding Planner, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and Failure to Launch. While these films made him a global heartthrob and a box office staple, the repetitive nature of the shirtless rom-com lead started to feel like a creative chaos. By the time Ghosts of Girlfriends Past hit theaters in 2009, Matthew made a radical choice. He stepped away from the spotlight entirely, turning down massive paychecks to wait for the kind of scripts that actually challenged him. That hiatus paved the way for what the media famously dubbed the McConnaissance. This era of reinvention kicked off in 2011 when he took on the role of Mickey Haller in The Lincoln Lawyer and reunited with Linklater for the dark comedy Burning. He followed this up with a gritty, award-winning performance in the Southern Gothic crime film Killer Joe and a supporting turn in the wildly popular Magic Mike. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a complete overhaul of his professional identity, moving from lighthearted tropes to deeply complex, often darker characters that demanded a new level of respect from critics and peers alike. The pinnacle of this transformation arrived in 2013 with his portrayal of Ron Woodroof in Dallas Buyers Club. His haunting, physically transformative performance swept the awards season, earning him the Academy Award for Best Actor, a Golden Globe, and a Screen Actors Guild Award. That same year, he delivered a scene-stealing cameo in Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street, proving that he had officially become one of the most versatile actors of his generation. The years following his Oscar win saw him diving into even more ambitious territory, from the historical war drama Free State of Jones to the crime-adventure Gold, where his dedication to the craft continued to earn him ensemble awards and critical nods. Even when the road got rocky, like with the 2019 neo-noir thriller Serenity, which took a hit from the critic, Matthew remained unfazed. Through every peak and valley, he has maintained that just keep livin' philosophy, evolving from a 90s breakout star into a Hollywood titan who refused to let the industry define his limit. But this evolution wasn't a solitary climb. While the public saw a man reinventing his craft, the real transformation was happening behind closed doors, fueled by a high-stakes pact and a partner who refused to let him settle for anything less than his full potential. The liquid courage of Camila, the wife who refused to let her husband play it safe. By 2021, Matthew McConaughey began opening up about the high-stakes gamble that saved his career, revealing that his departure from the world of romantic comedies wasn't just a professional pivot, it was a marital pact. In a candid cover story for AARP in the magazine, the actor reflected on the moment he decided to stop being Hollywood's go-to rom-com guy. Despite the massive commercial success of hits like The Wedding Planner and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Matthew found himself at a creative crossroads. He realized that while the genre demanded a certain lightheartedness, his actual life was becoming increasingly profound. Having found the love of his life in Camila, and with a newborn on the way, he felt a depth of emotion, joy, sadness, and vitality that his scripts simply weren't reflecting. If you go deep in a rom-com, you can sink the ship, he explained, noting the paradox of his situation. He wanted his work to mirror the intensity of his personal world, but the industry wasn't ready to see him as anything other than the charming lead in a beach set. Despite his willingness to take a massive pay cut, the dramatic roles he craved were nowhere to be found. Faced with a choice between staying the course or losing his soul to the genre, Matthew chose a third option. He quit. It was a terrifying move that met with mixed reactions from his inner circle, but it was Camila's unwavering support that gave him the liquid courage to stay the course. When he broke the news of his hiatus, Camila didn't just offer a shoulder to lean on. She issued a challenge that defined their partner. If we're going to do this, she told him, we're not going to half-a-deal. That singular piece of advice became the backbone of their strategy. With Camila's full support, Matthew began the grueling process of turning down every rom-com script that hit his desk. He even famously declined a staggering $14.5 million offer for a single film, choosing the uncertainty of his future over the security of a paycheck. For nearly a year and a half, the phone stopped ringing entirely. He admitted that he began shaking hands with the very real possibility that he might never work in Hollywood again. This period of unbranding was a calculated risk that required a spine of steel, but it ultimately paved the way for the McConnaissance. By disappearing from the public eye and refusing to settle, he forced the industry to look at him with fresh eyes. When he finally re-emerged, he wasn't the guy from Fool's Gold. He was the powerhouse lead in The Lincoln Lawyer, the gritty protagonist of Killer Joe, and the soul of HBO's True Detective. That long, quiet silence in his career was the vacuum that eventually sucked in the role of Ron Woodroof in Dallas Buyers Club, leading to his 2014 Oscar win. It remains proof to the fact that his career transformation wasn't a solo act. It was a shared mission with a wife who refused to let him play it safe. But this armor of resilience, the kind that allows a man to gamble his entire future on a single no, wasn't built in Hollywood. It was forged much earlier, in the high-voltage atmosphere of his youth, where survival and sincerity were the only currencies that mattered. Unfiltered and unbroken, the raw reality of Matthew McConaughey's rise. There is a specific, undeniable way Matthew McConaughey carries himself that suggests he is always several steps ahead of whatever the public happens to think of him at any given moment. Over a career spanning more than 30 years, the Texan has transformed from a charismatic local kid into a Hollywood icon, establishing himself as one of the most sincere and enigmatic actors in the business. From his breakthrough as a laid-back philosopher in 1993's Dazed and Confused to his critically acclaimed, haunting turn in 2014's True Detective, McConaughey has consistently redefined what it means to be a master of one's craft. However, the polished, Oscar-winning figure we see on red carpets today was not forged in a vacuum of easy success. Instead, his path was carved out by a complex, often volatile upbringing that demanded a very specific kind of mental and emotional resilience. Matthew did not have the easiest childhood, a reality that remained largely hidden behind his all right persona for decades. His parents, James and Mary McConaughey, shared a relationship that could only be described as a continuous lightning storm, intense, loud, unpredictable, and deeply passionate. They were famously twice divorced and thrice married to each other, locked in a cycle of breakups and reconciliations that defined Matthew's early worldview. He grew up in an environment where love wasn't a quiet, steady thing. It was a loud, physical force. One of the most defining memories of his youth involves a bloody row over something as mundane as a side of potatoes at the dinner table. That altercation escalated until his mother ended up with a broken finger, a moment caught in a family photo that Matthew later pointed to as a raw, messy expression of how his parents truly loved one another. His father's presence was just as complicated as the marriage itself. James was actually absent on the day Matthew was born in 1969 and remained estranged from Mary for a period of 8 years. Despite these fractures and the recurring chaos of his home life, Matthew maintains that he never once questioned the love his parents had for him. He grew up with a thick skin and an understanding that conflict didn't mean an end to affection. Interestingly, while he does not categorize his childhood experiences as abuse, they have directly influenced how he and Camila McConaughey raised their own 3 children today. They have consciously opted for a more communicative, modern approach, often engaging in deep explanations and emotional check-ins that were entirely absent in the old-school McConaughey household. It's a shift that hasn't gone unnoticed by the family matriarch. Even today, Matthew's mother reportedly teases them for talking about it too much, representing a generational divide in how the family processes the world. Acting was never the original plan for the Texas native. In fact, he was well on his way to a career in the legal field before a sudden realization intervened. As a student at the University of Texas, he stepped into college with dreams of becoming a high-powered defense attorney. It wasn't until his sophomore year that a sense of urgency took over. He realized that a legal path meant he wouldn't be able to truly execute something or leave a creative imprint on the world until he was well into his 30s. Seeking a faster way to make an impact, he turned to his father for advice on switching to film school. James gave him a blunt 3-word blessing that would become the defining mantra of his life: don't half-a. With that, Matthew pivoted, and the trajectory of American cinema changed forever. Considering the gift of the gab and the natural persuasive energy Matthew brings to every conversation, it's easy to imagine him as a formidable presence in a courtroom. Ironically, he eventually fulfilled those legal dreams through his acting, playing a lawyer in the 1996 hit A Time to Kill and again in 2011 with The Lincoln Lawyer. He found a deep personal comfort in playing attorney characters, often confessing that he used those roles to channel the alternate version of himself that had stayed the course in law school. These performances weren't just jobs, they were explorations of the man he almost became. Of course, no exploration of the McConaughey legend is complete without the stories that lean into his wilder, more uninhibited reputation. In 1999, at the age of 29, Matthew was famously arrested during a late-night incident for dancing naked and playing the bongo drum. After neighbors complained about the noise, police arrived to find the actor in his natural state, leading to a few hours in a jail cell. Rather than hiding from the embarrassment, Matthew embraced the story with his trademark cool, describing it as a nice stay for a night and a legendary jam session that just happened to involve a bowl of marijuana. This comfort with his own skin and the occasional use of Snoop weed on movie sets has made him a folk hero of sorts, a man who navigated the Hollywood machine without ever losing his authentic Texas soul. But beneath the bongos and the catchphrases, there were darker, more somber truths that Matthew carried privately for years. He has revealed that he was sexually abused and blackmailed during his youth, moments that could have easily broken a lesser spirit. Yet, true to the resilience he learned in that volatile household, he refused to let those events turn him into a victim. He processed the trauma with a quiet clarity, deciding that the graphic details didn't need to be shared for public curiosity, but rather used as internal fuel for his own survival. He emerged from those experiences with a clearer understanding of the world, refusing to let past tragedies change his view of healthy relationships or reality. Today, that resilience has turned into a massive engine for philanthropy. Following the death of his father in 1993, Matthew adopted the "Just Keep Living" philosophy, a phrase that would eventually become the name of his foundation in 2008. The organization now operates in 40 schools across the United States, motivating students to make healthy, positive life choices. His activism has proven that he isn't just an on-screen hero. He is a man of action who puts his resources where his heart is. Whether he was personally taking boats into the flooded streets of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina to rescue animals, or distributing over 100,000 face masks during the 2020 pandemic, Matthew has consistently shown that his vitality isn't just an acting style, it's a way of life. He and Camila have built a partnership that acts as a fortress against the pressures of fame. Together, they raised nearly $8 million for those hit by the 2021 Texas winter storm, earning Matthew the title of Philanthropist of the Year. He is a man shaped by the intensity of his parents' love and the lessons of a father who taught him never to do anything halfway. From his unbranding era, where he walked away from millions to find more meaningful work, to his current status as a global icon, Matthew McConaughey's journey is a masterclass in staying true to one's own DNA. He survived the MAC initiation of his youth and turned that grit into a legacy of genuine service, proving that the most important role he'll ever play is the one that happens when the cameras are finally turned off. But while Matthew's internal grit allowed him to survive his own past, it was Camila who had to face the family's future. To truly stand beside a man forged in such a lightning storm of a household, she had to prove she could weather one herself, starting with the woman who raised him. After 14 years, Matthew McConaughey's wife finally breaks her silence. While the world has spent over a decade watching Matthew McConaughey and Camila Alves dominate the spotlight with their picture-perfect chemistry and a career trajectory that reads like a Hollywood masterclass, there has always been a quieter, more complex narrative simmering beneath the surface. For 14 years, Camila has been the steady, graceful rock of the family, a self-made woman who built her own empire while navigating the intense pressures of a high-profile marriage. But now, she is finally pulling back the curtain on the gritty reality of what it actually took to be accepted into the McConaughey inner circle. It turns out that becoming a part of this iconic family wasn't about red carpets or liquid courage. It was about surviving a psychological warfare that started on day one. In a candid reflection on the early days of her relationship, Camila admits that her bond with Matthew's mother, the formidable Kay McConaughey, famously known as Ma Mac, was anything but an instant friendship. In fact, it was a battle of will. During an appearance on Southern Living's Biscuits and Jam podcast, Camila revealed that Kay didn't just welcome her with open arms. She tested her with a series of calculated, high-stakes provocations designed to see if this Brazilian transplant had the spine to handle the McConaughey legacy. The tests were as creative as they were cut. Camila recalled how Kay would intentionally call her by the names of all of Matthew's famous ex-girlfriends, a pointed move designed to check for even a flicker of insecurity. It didn't stop at the name. Kay would reportedly speak to her in a very broken, condescending version of Spanish, subtly putting her down and constantly checking to see if Camila would flinch under the pressure. For a woman who had worked her way up from cleaning houses to walking Valentino runway, this was a different kind of labor, a mental game of chicken that lasted for years. The turning point finally arrived during a high-fashion work trip to Istanbul. Camila, ever the diplomat, decided to use the perks of her job to bridge the gap, inviting her mother-in-law to join her on a first-class, all-expenses-paid trip. She hoped that a pampered getaway would finally melt the ice. But the journey began with Kay filling Camila's head with stories and situations meant to unsettle her. By the time they landed, Camila knew she had to buckle up for a confrontation. The climax of their years-long friction happened on the third day of the trip. After a long day, as Camila was helping Kay to her room, the matriarch began a tearful, emotional display over a private matter. In that vulnerable moment, Camila's first instinct was deep sympathy until she looked at her mother-in-law and had a sudden, sharp realization. She's full of. In that moment, the polite, nice girl exterior vanished. Camila realized that in the McConaughey world, respect isn't a gift, it's a trophy won in combat. She decided right then and there to stop taking the hits and start giving them back. I let her have it, Camila shared, describing how she finally tapped into her spicy Brazilian Latin side. The two women went back and forth, trading fire in a raw, unfiltered exchange that finally stripped away the pretense. And then, the unexpected happened. After the dust settled, Kay looked at her with a newfound light in her eyes and simply said, Okay, now you're in. It was the ultimate revelation. Kay wasn't looking for a daughter-in-law who would bow to her. She was looking for a woman who would fight back. She needed to know that the woman standing beside her son had the grit to hold her own when things got tough. From that night on, their dynamic shifted from one of suspicion to one of profound mutual respect. While Camila laughs that things can still get tricky from time to time, as any relationship with a strong-willed matriarch can, the foundation is now built on honesty rather than By finally breaking her silence on these rites of passage, Camila has shown that her place in the family wasn't just evolved into, it was earned through fire. Are you a fan of Matthew McConaughey and Camila Alva? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also click the next video shown on your screen. You'll enjoy it.